I am a 32-year-old software engineer from Boston. For 5 years, Jessica and I built what I thought was an unshakable relationship. We had a beautiful apartment, supportive families, and wedding plans set for this spring. Then I found the texts. 3 months before our wedding, I discovered she had been cheating with her coworker. When I confronted her, Jessica just laughed and said those words that haunted me for months. "You will never find someone like me." She was right, but not in the way she thought. Before I tell you how my life completely turned around, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had someone underestimate your worth. I met Jessica at my friend Kevin's birthday party 5 years ago. She walked in wearing a blue dress that matched her eyes, and I could not look away. Kevin introduced us, and we spent the entire night talking about everything from our favorite hiking trails to our shared love of cooking and indie rock bands. There was an immediate connection that felt both exciting and comfortable. After our first date at a small Italian restaurant downtown, we quickly became inseparable. Jessica was charming, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in my life and thoughts. She worked in marketing at a prestigious firm while I was developing software for a mid-sized tech company. We complemented each other perfectly. 2 years into our relationship, we decided to move in together. We found a cozy apartment near the Charles River with a small balcony, where we would have coffee every Sunday morning. Our life together was everything I had hoped for. We adopted a cat named Jasper, established routines and traditions, and built what I thought was a solid foundation. On our 4th anniversary, I proposed at La Maison, her favorite French restaurant. I had arranged with the staff to bring out a special dessert, with the ring nestled among chocolate-covered strawberries. When she said yes, the entire restaurant applauded. Her parents were thrilled, and my mom cried when I told her the news. We set the date for May 15th and began planning our perfect day. Jessica wanted a destination wedding in Cape Cod with about 100 guests. We spent weekends visiting venues, tasting cakes, and creating our registry. My parents contributed a generous sum to our wedding fund, and her father offered to pay for the honeymoon. Everything was falling into place, and I had never been happier. I trusted Jessica completely. When she stayed late at the office, I never questioned it. When she went out with friends I had never met, I wished her a good time. I was confident in our love and commitment. Looking back, my trust was both my greatest strength and my greatest weakness. The first hint that something was off came about 6 months before our wedding. Jessica started working later than usual, often coming home after 9 or 10 at night. She explained that her team had landed a major client and the project required extra hours. It made sense, and I supported her career ambitions. Then she began mentioning new friends from work, particularly someone named Ryan, who had apparently just transferred from the Chicago office. She would casually drop his name into conversations. "Ryan showed me this great lunch spot today," or "Ryan has the best ideas for the campaign." I never thought much of it initially. About 4 months before the wedding, Jessica changed the password on her phone. When I asked about it casually, she said something about work security protocols. It seemed reasonable enough, though a small part of me felt uneasy. Our physical intimacy started to wane. She was always too tired or not in the mood. When I tried to talk about it, she blamed work stress and wedding planning. Again, these explanations made sense, but the distance between us was growing. Jessica also began criticizing aspects of my life and personality that had never bothered her before. My job was not ambitious enough. My friends were not sophisticated. Even my clothing choices became targets for her disapproval. "Ryan dresses so professionally," she would comment while looking at my casual weekend attire with disdain. I dismissed my concerns repeatedly. Every relationship goes through phases, I told myself. The stress of wedding planning could make anyone act differently. I focused on being supportive and patient, believing things would return to normal after the wedding. Our conversations became strained, often ending with me feeling inadequate and confused. She would compare me to her successful friends who were making more money or climbing corporate ladders faster. When I shared my own career goals, she would listen with a look that bordered on pity. Despite all these warning signs, I remained blind to the truth until that Friday night 3 months before our wedding day. Jessica had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. It buzzed repeatedly with incoming messages. Thinking it might be important, I glanced at the screen and saw multiple texts from Ryan. The preview showed enough for my stomach to drop. "Last night was amazing. Cannot wait to see you again tomorrow. He still suspects nothing." My hands trembled as I picked up the phone. I had never snooped through her private messages before, but in that moment I needed to know the truth. The passcode had been changed, but I remembered seeing her use her birth year recently. It worked. What I found shattered my world. Hundreds of messages between them, going back 6 months. Intimate photos. Plans for meetups when I was working late or out of town. Discussions about their future together. There were even messages mocking me and our relationship. When Jessica came out of the shower, I was sitting at the kitchen table with her phone in front of me. She took one look at my face and knew. There was no shock or remorse in her expression, just annoyance at being caught. How long, I asked, my voice barely audible. 6 months, she replied flatly. It just happened. Ryan and I worked closely together and things developed. 6 months is not just happened, I said. That is half a year of lying to my face every day. She shrugged. I was going to tell you eventually. The wedding invitations are not even out yet. Were you planning to marry me while seeing him? I asked, incredulous. I was confused, she said, but there was no confusion in her eyes. Ryan and I connect on a different level. He understands my ambitions. When I asked if she loved him, she nodded. When I asked if she had ever loved me, she hesitated just long enough for me to know the answer. I settled for you, Spencer, she finally admitted. You were safe and nice, but not what I really wanted long term. Ryan is going places. He has connections and drive. I sat there stunned by her coldness. 5 years of my life dismissed so easily. You should thank me, she continued. I am doing you a favor. You would have been miserable trying to keep up with me. As she packed an overnight bag, presumably to stay at Ryan's place, she delivered the final blow. You will never find someone like me, Spencer. And maybe that is a good thing for both of us. The door closed behind her and I was left alone with the ruins of what I thought was my future. The next few weeks passed in a blur of painful tasks. We had to cancel the venue, the caterer, the photographer, and the florist. Some deposits were non-refundable. I had to call my family and close friends to explain that the wedding was off. Most were supportive, but the pitying tones in their voices made each conversation excruciating. My parents were heartbroken for me. They had loved Jessica and welcomed her into our family traditions and holidays. My mother offered to fly up from Florida to help me through this time, but I insisted I would be fine. I was not fine. Jessica and I had shared an apartment for 3 years. Most of our furniture had been purchased together. We had joint accounts for household expenses. Untangling our lives was complicated and painful. She agreed to move out since her salary could easily secure a new place, while I would struggle to find affordable housing in our neighborhood on short notice. I stayed in our apartment for 2 weeks while Jessica moved her things out piece by piece. She always came when I was at work, leaving empty spaces where her belongings had been. Each missing item was another reminder of what I had lost. Eventually, I could not bear to be in that apartment anymore. Too many memories haunted every room. I packed my essentials and moved temporarily to my friend Trevor's place, sleeping on his couch while trying to figure out my next steps. The financial impact hit hard. We lost several non-refundable deposits. The honeymoon tickets were in my name and came with hefty cancellation fees. My savings, which had been earmarked for our future, dwindled quickly. What hurt even more was the social fallout. Many of our mutual friends chose sides, and surprisingly many sided with Jessica. They were charmed by her version of events, which painted me as inattentive, and her connection with Ryan as an unavoidable force of nature. Some friends simply faded away uncomfortable with the awkwardness of our situation. The worst moment came 3 weeks after our breakup. I was picking up takeout from our favorite Thai restaurant when I saw them together. Jessica and Ryan were seated by the window, laughing intimately. She wore the necklace I had given her for Christmas, and he had his arm casually draped around her shoulder. They looked happy and comfortable, as if their relationship had existed for years rather than months. I abandoned my food order and left before they could see me. That night, I drank myself to sleep on Trevor's couch, wondering how she could move on so effortlessly while I was still struggling to function. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. I stopped sleeping properly, either lying awake, replaying the relationship in my mind, or having nightmares about Jessica and Ryan together. I lost weight because food lost its appeal. My performance at work suffered, as I struggled to concentrate on coding tasks that once came easily. I withdrew from social activities, and spent most evenings alone in Trevor's apartment while he was out living his life. I scrolled through old photos of Jessica, and me torturing myself with memories of happier times and wondering what signs I had missed. Some days I called in sick to work because I could not face leaving the apartment. I started drinking more than I should, not just on weekends but on random Tuesday nights. Anything to numb the constant ache in my chest. The turning point came exactly 6 weeks after Jessica left. Trevor came home early one Friday to find me in the same sweatpants I had been wearing for days, empty pizza boxes and beer bottles surrounding me. He took one look around and sat down across from me. "This ends now," he said firmly. "You have been a ghost for over a month. I get it she destroyed you, but I am not going to watch you destroy yourself." Trevor had been my friend since college. He knew me better than almost anyone, and his words cut through the fog I had been living in. "She is not worth this," he continued. "The Spencer I know would not let someone else determine his value." That weekend, Trevor practically dragged me to a gym where he had a membership. "Exercise saved me after my divorce," he explained. "It gives you control over something when everything else feels chaotic." Initially, I went through the motions just to appease him. The first workout was pathetic. I had lost muscle and gained nothing but alcohol weight. But something shifted in me that day. The physical exertion provided the first real relief I had felt in weeks. The endorphins cleared my head, if only temporarily. Trevor also connected me with his therapist, Dr. Marshall, who specialized in helping people through relationship trauma. I was skeptical at first, but desperate enough to try anything. In our first session, Dr. Marshall helped me understand that what I was experiencing was not just heartbreak, but a form of betrayal trauma. "You are grieving not just the relationship, but your understanding of reality," he explained. "Everything you thought was true has been called into question. That is deeply disorienting." Through weekly sessions, I began to recognize patterns in my relationship with Jessica. How I had slowly compromised more and more of myself to keep her happy. How her criticism had gradually eroded my confidence. How I had become codependent, deriving my sense of worth from her approval. "The relationship ending may ultimately be the healthiest thing for you," Dr. Marshall suggested. "Now you have the opportunity to rediscover who Spencer really is." With Trevor's help, I found a small studio apartment in a completely different neighborhood. It was nothing fancy, but it was mine alone with no memories of Jessica. Decorating it became a form of therapy. I chose items that reflected my personal taste, not compromises reached with someone else. I rediscovered photography, a hobby I had loved in college but abandoned as adult responsibilities took over. I bought a second-hand DSLR camera and began taking walks through Boston, capturing the city through my own eyes. The focus required for good photography kept my mind present rather than dwelling in the past. Trevor convinced me to join him on weekend hiking trips, something Jessica and I used to do, but that she had eventually deemed too time-consuming. The physical challenge of tackling difficult trails rebuilt my strength, while the natural beauty provided perspective on my relatively small problems. Dr. Marshall suggested I keep a journal to track my healing process. Initially, I felt ridiculous writing down my thoughts, but the practice proved invaluable. I could see patterns in my emotional state, noting triggers that sent me spiraling and identifying activities that brought me peace. 3 months after the breakup, I realized I had gone an entire day without thinking about Jessica. It was a small victory but significant. That same evening, I deleted her from all my social media accounts. It was time to stop monitoring her life and focus on rebuilding my own. With my personal life slowly improving, I turned my attention to my career. The tech industry was evolving rapidly, and I had fallen behind on the latest developments while focused on wedding planning and then surviving heartbreak. I enrolled in online courses to update my coding skills, learning new frameworks and languages that would make me more marketable. A former colleague reached out about an opening at his startup. The position offered more responsibility and creative input than my current job, along with better pay. Despite my lingering self-doubt, I updated my resume and applied. The interview process was grueling with technical assessments and multiple rounds of meetings with the team. The old Spencer would have crumbled under the pressure, but the new version of me welcomed the challenge. When they offered me the position, the sense of accomplishment was entirely my own. My new coworkers were innovative and passionate about technology. Working alongside them reignited my own enthusiasm for problem solving. Within 2 months, I led the development of a new feature that significantly improved user engagement. The recognition from my peers and superiors rebuilt my professional confidence. As my work life stabilized, I began to address the social vacuum left by the breakup. Trevor had been a lifeline, but I could not rely solely on one friend forever. I joined a hiking club that organized weekend trips to trails throughout New England. The shared experience of challenging climbs and beautiful vistas created natural bonds with fellow members. I also reached out to college friends I had neglected during my years with Jessica. Many were surprised to hear from me after so long, but welcomed me back into their lives without judgment. Through them, I met new people who had no connection to my past relationship. My new apartment building hosted monthly social events for residents. Initially, I attended out of boredom, but soon found myself enjoying conversations with neighbors from diverse backgrounds and professions. One neighbor, Anthony, became a regular hiking partner and introduced me to his recreational basketball league. 6 months after Jessica walked out, I found myself surrounded by friends at a mountain cabin for a long weekend. We hiked during the day and played board games by the fireplace at night. During a particularly competitive round of Trivial Pursuit, I laughed so hard my sides hurt. It was then I realized I had not thought about Jessica in weeks. The crushing weight had lifted, replaced by genuine joy in the present moment. The physical and mental transformation continued steadily. 6 months of consistent gym workouts reshaped my body. I was stronger than I had ever been, even before the breakup. My reflection in the mirror showed someone I recognized again, but improved. With my first bonus from the new job, I refreshed my wardrobe. Jessica had always criticized my casual style, pushing me toward clothes that never felt quite right. Now I developed a personal style that balanced comfort and confidence. The compliments I received boosted my self-image further. I established healthier eating habits, cooking nutritious meals rather than surviving on takeout and frozen dinners. The process of preparing food became meditative, a way to practice mindfulness and self-care. I slept better, as a result no longer lying awake, rehashing the past. My therapy sessions with Dr. Marshall evolved from crisis management to deeper work on attachment patterns and relationship expectations. I came to understand how my parents' relationship had shaped my own views on love and commitment. I learned to recognize red flags I had previously ignored, and to value myself enough to establish boundaries. At our 1-year mark, Dr. Marshall noted the profound changes in me. When you first came here, you were defining yourself by what you had lost, he observed. Now you define yourself by what you have gained. I am proud of who you are becoming, Spencer. It was at this point in my recovery when I felt whole again, but had no interest in dating that an unexpected reunion changed everything. My 20-year high school reunion was approaching, and I had initially decided to skip it. What was the point of revisiting the past? But Trevor, who had attended the same school, insisted it would be good for me to reconnect with my pre-Jessica life. Besides, he argued showing up successful and looking great after all these years is the best revenge against those high school jerks. Reluctantly, I agreed. We arrived at the hotel ballroom, where the reunion was being held, name tags affixed and drinks in hand. The initial awkwardness of recognizing faces from the past slowly gave way to genuine curiosity about how classmates had fared over the years. I was chatting with my former debate team partner when I noticed her. Ellie Taylor had entered the room and several heads turned in her direction. She had been quiet and artistic in high school, talented, but rarely in the spotlight. Now she carried herself with graceful confidence. Her dark hair was cut in a stylish bob, and she wore a simple black dress that hinted at a successful career in fashion or the arts. What struck me most was her smile, warm and authentic, in a room where many wore carefully crafted social masks. I made my way to the refreshment table when there was a natural break in conversation. Ellie was filling a cup with punch and looked up as I approached. "Spencer Graham," she said with genuine warmth. "I was hoping you would be here tonight." I was surprised she recognized me immediately. We had been friendly in high school but ran in different circles. We had been lab partners in chemistry class junior year, but our interactions had been limited to discussions of molecular structures and lab reports. "Ellie," I replied, smiling. "You look amazing. Life must be treating you well." She laughed, a musical sound that seemed to brighten the room. It has its ups and downs. I moved back to Boston 6 months ago, after spending several years in New York. I am still adjusting to the change of pace. We moved to a quieter corner of the room, and I learned she had built a successful career as a model working primarily in print advertising and the occasional runway show. She had returned to Boston to be closer to family and to pursue her true passion for painting. The conversation flowed effortlessly, covering the past 20 years without awkwardness. She asked thoughtful questions about my work and interests, listening intently to my answers. There was no hint of the superficiality I had come to expect from initial conversations. As the night progressed, Ellie shared a confession that caught me completely off guard. "I had such a crush on you in high school," she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "You probably had no idea. I was too shy to do anything about it." I laughed, certain she was joking. "Me, the awkward computer nerd, I think you have me confused with someone else." "Not at all," she insisted. "You were kind and intelligent, always helping others in class. And you had this quiet confidence about things that mattered to you. It was very attractive." I felt heat rising to my face, flattered but skeptical. We exchanged numbers at the end of the evening with promises to catch up properly soon. I assumed it was just reunion politeness that would fade in the light of day. 2 days later, my phone chimed with a text from Ellie, still thinking about our conversation. "Coffee this week. Thursday afternoon at Riverfront Cafe." I stared at the message, my heart racing unexpectedly. Was this actually happening? After a year of rebuilding myself, was I ready to connect with someone new? The prospect was both exciting and terrifying. I accepted the invitation, spending far too much time choosing an outfit on Thursday morning. The Riverfront Cafe was a charming spot overlooking the Charles River, busy enough to be comfortable, but quiet enough for conversation. Ellie arrived precisely on time, dressed casually in jeans and a blue sweater that matched her eyes. Any fears of awkwardness quickly dissolved as we picked up where we had left off at the reunion. 1 hour stretched into 2, and coffee turned into an early dinner at the Italian restaurant next door. Ellie told me about her modeling career, the glamorous aspects and the challenging realities behind the scenes. I shared stories about startup culture and my recent professional transition. "You seem different from how I remember you in school," she observed. "More centered somehow." It has been a journey, I admitted, and found myself sharing a condensed version of the past year's events. I had not planned to discuss Jessica, but something about Ellie made it easy to be honest. She listened without judgment, asking insightful questions and expressing genuine empathy. Her loss, Ellie concluded simply. "Though I cannot pretend I am sorry things worked out this way." As the evening wound down, Ellie reached into her bag and pulled out what appeared to be a book. It was her high school yearbook. "You did not believe me about my crush," she said with a playful smile. "I brought evidence." She opened to a specific page where my senior photo was circled in faded pink pen. In the margin, in neat handwriting, were the words, "Smartest guy in school." "Why am I too chicken to talk to him?" I laughed in disbelief. "You really were not joking." "I never joke about matters of the heart," she replied with a wink. I walked her home to her brownstone apartment a few blocks away. The evening air was cool, and our conversation had reached that comfortable stage where silences felt natural rather than awkward. At her doorstep, I hesitated, unsure of the protocol in this situation. It had been so long since I had dated anyone besides Jessica. Ellie solved my dilemma by rising slightly on her toes and placing a gentle kiss on my lips. "I would really like to see you again, Spencer," she whispered. Walking home that night, I felt something I had not experienced in a long time possibility. Ellie and I dated casually for the next 2 months, getting to know each other at a comfortable pace. We explored Boston together, discovering that despite both having grown up here, we had favorite spots the other had never visited. She introduced me to art galleries and jazz clubs I had never frequented, while I showed her hidden hiking trails just outside the city and my favorite obscure bookstores. We developed inside jokes and references that formed the foundation of our own shared language. When I finally introduced her to Trevor, his approval was immediate and enthusiastic. "She looks at you like you hang the moon," he told me later. "And more importantly, you seem happy around her. Not the desperate happiness you had with Jessica, but something calmer and more real." What struck me most about Ellie was her emotional intelligence and kindness. She noticed things about people, remembered details, and genuinely cared about others' feelings. She encouraged my photography, displaying my best print in her apartment, and suggesting weekend trips, specifically to capture interesting landscapes. Unlike Jessica, who had subtly competed with me and often made me feel inadequate, Ellie celebrated my successes and supported me through challenges. When my startup landed a major client and I spent a week working late, she left encouraging notes in my jacket pocket and brought dinner to my office one night. The physical attraction between us was undeniable, but we took that aspect of our relationship slowly. The ghost of betrayal still lingered in my mind, making me cautious about becoming vulnerable again. Ellie never pushed understanding intuitively that I needed time. Our first weekend trip together was to a bed and breakfast in a coastal town north of Boston. Walking along the shore at sunset, I realized I had not thought about Jessica in weeks. The comparison between the relationships no longer dominated my thoughts. "I have trust issues," I admitted to Ellie one evening as we sat on her couch sharing a bottle of wine. "I am working on them, but you should know that. We all have baggage," she replied, squeezing my hand. "What matters is that we are unpacking it rather than letting it define us." Over dinner one night, 3 months into our relationship, I shared the full story of Jessica's betrayal, including her parting words about never finding someone like her. Ellie listened quietly, her expression thoughtful. When I finished, she took my hand across the table. "She was right, you know," Ellie said. "You will never find someone like her again. You will find someone better. Someone who values your kindness and intelligence. Someone who chooses you every day, not just when it is convenient." She smiled. "I hope that someone might be me." In that moment, I knew I was falling in love again, but differently this time. It was not the desperate, anxious attachment I had formed with Jessica, but something steadier and more grounded in mutual respect and genuine admiration. The real test came unexpectedly almost exactly 1 year after my breakup with Jessica. Ellie and I were having dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown when I noticed a familiar figure at a table across the room. Jessica was dining with Ryan, both dressed impeccably for what appeared to be a business dinner with clients. My stomach tightened momentarily, but the crippling pain I had expected did not materialize. Instead, I felt a strange detachment, as if observing characters from a movie I had seen long ago. Jessica noticed me mid-conversation and did a visible double-take when she saw Ellie beside me. Her eyes widened slightly, and I could read the question in them. Who is this beautiful woman, and why is she with Spencer? After their clients left, Jessica made her way to our table, pulling Ryan along by the hand. She looked much the same, though her smile seemed forced as she greeted me. "Spencer, what a surprise," she said. "You look different." Her eyes lingered on my physique, noticeably improved from our time together. "Jessica," I replied calmly. "This is Ellie." "Ellie, this is Jessica and Ryan." Ellie smiled warmly, extending her hand. "Lovely to meet you both." Jessica's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. She turned to me again. "Could we chat for just a moment?" For closure, I glanced at Ellie, who nodded reassuringly. Jessica and I stepped away from the table. "You really do look good," she said, her tone suggesting surprise. "And your friend is gorgeous." "A model, I assume." The slight emphasis on friend and the questioning tone revealed her true curiosity. "Yes, Ellie models," I confirmed simply. "We have been dating for several months now." Jessica's expression flickered between disbelief and something that looked remarkably like jealousy. "Well," she said finally, "I am glad things worked out for you. I was worried after everything." In that moment, I realized something profound. I felt nothing for this woman who had once been the center of my universe. No anger, no longing, not even resentment. Only gratitude for the path that had led me here. "Thank you, Jessica," I said sincerely. "You were right, you know. I never did find someone like you." I smiled, feeling truly at peace. "I found someone much better for me. I hope you and Ryan are happy together." I returned to our table where Ellie waited with quiet confidence. As we left the restaurant hand in hand, I felt the final weight lift from my shoulders. The past no longer had power over me. Looking back on the journey of the past year, I am amazed by how completely life can transform when we are forced to rebuild from scratch. The pain Jessica inflicted was real and devastating, but it also created space for growth that would not have happened otherwise. I learned that relationships should enhance your life, not define it. That someone who truly loves you will never make you feel like you need to change to be worthy of their affection. That betrayal reveals the character of the betrayer, not the worth of the betrayed. Perhaps most importantly, I discovered that pain, when faced directly, rather than avoided, can transform you in unexpected ways. The breakdown of what I thought was my future led to a breakthrough in understanding myself. I am grateful now for the experience, though I would never have believed that possible in those dark days after Jessica left. Her departure created a vacancy that was filled not just by Ellie, but by rediscovering my own passions, strengthening friendships, advancing my career, and rebuilding my self-worth. Trust is still something I work on daily. There are moments when old fears surface, when I catch myself waiting for Ellie to discover my flaws and leave. But these moments are becoming rarer as our relationship deepens. Sometimes the people who hurt us unknowingly direct us toward where we are meant to be. Jessica's cruel parting words, "You will never find someone like me," became the greatest gift she could have given me. She was right, just not in the way she intended. I wonder how many others have similar stories of heartbreak leading to unexpected joy. How many of you watching have endured betrayal only to find something better waiting on the other side? Share your stories of transformation in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life journeys of overcoming obstacles. Share this video with someone who might be struggling through their own heartbreak to remind them that better days are ahead. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, sometimes when someone tells you that you will never find someone like them, the universe takes it as a promise, not a threat.